Hello and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. In another episode of D&D Races, we're going to be talking about Wood Elves, or as they're called in my campaign, Kelvar or Tree Elves. So the Wood Elves are a pretty closely related cousin to High Elves or Eldar. If you want to watch my High Elves video, I'll go ahead and link it down below. But High Elves and Wood Elves and Drow for that matter, were all at one point one race of elves, but migrating to different areas of the world, coming into contact with other different kinds of magic and things like that, have really shaped both their appearance and culture. High elves, for the most part, tend to be lofty, forward-thinking, progressive, having an appreciation for the finer things in life. Wood elves are much more grounded. So the Wood Elves, or Kelvar, are the elves that remained in the wooded areas of the world after their High Elven cousins split off and took to the plains and valleys so that they could better see the stars above them. The Wood Elves are, aside from gnomes, are pretty much as close to you'll get as a straight-up Fey creature in the material plane that hasn't otherwise come from the Feywild. In my video on the Obstu, which I'll link down below, the elves came into contact with the wild magic of the Feywild, and that's what, shaped them into what they are. So the Wood Elves are very reminiscent of that fact. You can see it in their appearance. They're a little bit more Fey-like than High Elves. Their features are a little bit more sort of ethereal, otherworldly. Their ears are a little bit bigger. And where High Elves are tall and slim, Wood Elves tend to be a little bit shorter and stockier. Not as stocky as, say, a human, but whereas High Elves tend to be as tall or a little bit taller than humans, Wood Elves, or Kelvar, are a little bit shorter than your typical human. Wood Elves dress themselves in the colors of the earth, greens and browns and grays. They use the earth in everything they do. They have a real reverence and appreciation for the wilds, but they also know how to shape those wilds to their advantage. They build their homes in the trees. They'll hollow out a downed dire oak. In my world, the dire oaks are these massive, massive trees. They'll hollow out these fallen dire oaks and make lodges out of them. They'll, live within the roots of great trees of the swamp. They'll create, catwalks and things like that. Building great cities within the canopies of these trees in the jungles and the forests and the glades of the world. Wood Elves are not as lofty as their High Elven cousins. They're much more in tune with the earth and are much more sort of grounded in their sensibilities. At the same time, they're also quicker to anger and violence, and they're actually considered to be quite savage by both their High Elven cousins and the other races of the world. Wood Elves do not hesitate to protect their homelands with necessary force. They are much more warlike than the High Elves, but that doesn't mean that they're warmongers. They don't go out looking for a fight. But if if a human lumber camp comes up to the edges of one of their woods and begins chopping down trees, you'd be surprised if the Wood Elves didn't attack. They will throw down the gauntlet if they need to. And that's not to say they won't give out a warning first, but the warning might be sending your messenger back without a head type deal. So they do have more of a tendency towards violence, at least in my game. Wood Elves have darker, kind of rougher skin than their High Elven cousins. They also have more earth-toned eyes and bark brown hair. They can even have sort of a greenish tint to their skin at times and their hair, which sort of more strongly sort of correlates them with the wilds that they call their home. They're skilled animal handlers, training birds of prey, riding on elk and other large creatures within their wooded homes, utilizing all sorts of different creatures in scouting and hunting and building and all sorts of things. But they don't see it as a master servant or master pet relationship. It really is like a partnership. They don't view wildlife as subservient. They view it as we're living here, you're living here. Even if they hunt, they always give thanks to these animals, and they never hunt anything more than they need to. They also are very much into using everything. If you kill a deer, you use its skin to make clothes, or a quiver for your arrows, or a pair of boots, or you use it in the roof of your hut. You use their antlers in your armor, or you make weapons or tools with them. You build a bow using the antlers. You use their hooves, you use their teeth, you use their bones in your armor and your structures. Everything. You use everything. And nothing ever goes to waste for the Wood Elves. It would be very disrespectful to let anything go to waste. Though they have a knowledge and reverence for both arcane and divine magic, they're less inclined towards the arcane than their high elven cousins are. And in fact, less reverent of gods in general. They prefer to worship the earth itself, drawing energy, elemental manna from the plants and the wildlife and the soil beneath their feet. Druids and rangers are much more common than, say, a wizard might be, but it's definitely common to see sorcerers and warlocks and things like that within the ranks of the Wood Elves. The Kelvar are, by and large, a matriarchy. Mother Earth, women are greatly respected and revered in Wood Elven culture as creators of life. And so, though men are not subservient to women, it's definitely more common to see a female elder of a tribe or a council of high-ranking females, making decisions for different tribes. Men are respected as hunters, as gatherers, as farmers, as defenders of the world, whereas the women are revered as mothers, as caretakers, as leaders. Wood Elves are much less likely to sit around and compose songs and write poetry and create works of art as their High Elven cousins. Wood Elves make functional things. They make tools, weapons, shelter, clothes, armor. They view weapons and armor as art. They create intricate designs on their armor and weapons. Wood Elven bows are some of the most beautiful in the world. They use, antlers and bones and beautiful wood in their construction. So yes, Wood Elves are more secluded than their High Elven cousins. They're more prone to violence than their High Elven cousins. They're less structured, more wild and untamed. But at the same time, Wood Elves have a warmth to them that really can't be matched by any other race in the world. They are closer and more in tune with the earth and its energies than any other race on the planet, period. They have a deep connection to the Feywild, and Wood Elves who have lived long enough can see the Feywild because it is a mirror image of the material plane. They can see Fey creatures that others can't. They can communicate with them. And some of them can even walk in the Feywild at will, if they have a deep enough connection with it. So, while the High Elves look to the stars and see their destinies in the patterns and orbits of the celestial bodies, the Wood Elves see their future and their past in the subtle vibrations of the earth, in the wind whispering through the leaves of a tree, the way a piece of bark comes off a tree and crackles, the howling of wolves, the stampeding of deer, the cry of a hawk flying above. They see meaning and purpose in the simpler things, and for that matter, they are pretty well respected in the world, even though they might be a little bit more, savage. So how do you handle Wood Elves in your campaign world, how do you set them apart from high elves or drow or other elves you might have in your world? I like them a little wilder, and I think that gives them a really unique flavor within my world. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me. Look forward to more D&D Races videos. Take care, and happy gaming all.